Here's a long one. Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to the first episode of All Nat. I'm Nat, for those who don't know me, and I am an avid Warriors fan. I am a Steph Curry stan as well, and I'm an NBA junkie. So I started this podcast to follow the Warriors season, but to also cover the rest of the basketball season and look at the teams that are playing in the association from the lens of the Warriors. So who they'll be matching up weekly with, how the season is going for them, how the other teams they're matching up with are faring throughout the season. And for my first episode, I want to start off with an NBA preview. So I'm so excited today for the guests who decided to join me. If you're a part of Twitter and you're a part of NBA Twitter, you'll be familiar with some of these names, especially Warriors fans. So I'm going to start off first by going with the ladies, and I'm going to start with my girl, Amber. She's my Twitter bestie. Hey, Amber.
Hey.
Amber is one of my favorite follows on Twitter. As I already mentioned, she's my Twitter bestie. And we both live up to our heritage. She's Puerto Rican, I'm Jamaican. So you get the feistiness, but she's a lifetime Bay Area sports fan. So not only Warriors, but who's your football team? I don't want to say the wrong one.
Shitty ass Raider.
The Raiders. She just, in baseball, she follows all the sports. She knows her hoops. So I had to have her on as one of my very first guests. I'm so excited. Amber, you can introduce yourself and tell them anything else that you want them to know about you.
I think you covered it well.
All right. Well, do you want to at least let them know your Twitter handle, so if they want to follow you to hear more of you after the show?
Yeah. My Twitter handle is what is it?
I'll let you figure it out and then I'll come back to you. You can tell them. Plus, we'll have it listed. My next guest is Justin. And Justin is also another one of my favorite follows, which is why I have him on. I call him the Tim Legler of NBA Twitter. He's super knowledgeable. I learned so much from him. If you want to learn about basketball in a very reasoned, measured way, you should definitely follow Justin. He just keeps me very informed. I always like his takes. He's really insightful. He's played before, so definitely follow him. And he has his own business. So if you're in the DC, DMV area, you should definitely check it out. And I'll let him tell you about that and introduce himself.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a personal trainer in DC. I work at Equinox Sports Club. It's kind of in the downtown area, but I do virtual training, online training stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, just like that, I'm from Jamaican heritage as well. Same thing with Eric. So
you are? Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, my dad's from Jamaica, born and raised. So
word? Oh, that's even better.
So, folks is from Mandeville.
Really? Justin, how did I not know this all this time?
Yeah, I don't know.
He told me that last year. I was like, really? Yeah, like
that's news to me. And how does the online virtual training work?
We can do it multiple ways. I can train people via Zoom, FaceTime, stuff like that. Like you set your phone up in the gym and I can take you through a workout. Or I can just write your program for you, 6 to 8 weeks, whatever your goal is. I can kind of tailor the program to that, send it to you, and kind of check in every now and then to see how your progress is going, stuff like that.
Okay, so if anyone...
You're at Equinox, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Is that where they have all those runs, like with the NBA ball players coming in?
Some of them do stuff like that. I know we have a lot of because we're connected to the Ritz-Carlton there, so a lot of NBA teams will stay in the Ritz and use the Equinox gym. So I've seen a lot of NBA teams. I've seen the Dallas Mavericks, a bunch of teams. Giannis was in there one time. So it's pretty cool to see them. Yeah. Just
Did you talk to any of them?
Yeah, I talked to Dirk. It was Dirk's last season. I was kind of starstruck with him. Luka and Porzingis were there. I was just but when Dirk came in there, I was like, man, that's kind of crazy.
Of course, the legend.
I know. I seen Page in there. I spoke to him. Rick Carlisle, bunch of different people. So it's
So,
pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
so if they're interested in signing up, how do they get in touch with you? What do they do?
Well, you can DM me on Twitter at the package JG, or you can follow me on Instagram at performance prowess. No like underscores, anything like that. Just performance prowess.
Cool. All right. Last but not least, I want to introduce my guy, Eric. Most of you, if you're on NBA Twitter, will know him as Urkel, terrorizing your timelines. Urkel and I are super close. In fact, people often call me the female Urkel, which I'm like, yo, I'm older than him. So really, he's really the male Nat. But nah, Urkel is great. Like, he's a little crazy. So people think he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's super smart, knows his basketball. I'll let him continue to tell you about himself. But Eric is also a great follow, all three of these people. So you should check him out. Eric, how do they follow you?
So Urkel9 on Twitter. And during the season, we'll be doing a nightly spaces or a game night spaces after the game. Just kind of recapping what the Warriors did, kind of the trends that we're seeing, what we expect to see from the team and whatnot. So the last couple of nights we've been doing it, we've had like a pretty good dialogue going. We had some Laker fans in there and we're kind of going back and forth. So we have a good thing in there in the spaces going. Last, like how this whole thing blew up, we had we started a spaces randomly and Kevin Durant jumped in there like, what was it, like 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And all hell broke loose in the spaces. So ever since then, like we do have a lot of people hopping in there to see if like any random person will hop in there. And best believe they do have a lot of randoms hopping in there because we do break some stuff in there sometimes. We have some insider people that come in and they drop all types of knowledge in there. So we got a good thing going in there.
Cool. Anyone who's listening, if you're not on social media or you don't use Twitter as a regular platform, Spaces is like the what's that app? The one that no one uses anymore.
Clubhouse.
Yes. Spaces is like Clubhouse on Twitter. Okay, but it's better. So that's what Spaces is. That's what Eric is referring to, and you should definitely hop in and check it out. We did have Kevin Durant in there. It was a wild time. We basically shut down Twitter. The CEO of Twitter was in there. So you should definitely follow Eric because you never know who may be hopping into Spaces. Him and Katie have like a weird kind of friendship thing going on. So you never know. You might get Kevin Durant in his Spaces again. All right. So I'm ready to dig in. First, I want to start with the preseason. How are you guys feeling about the Warriors preseason so far? What you're seeing? Give me your thoughts on that. Justin, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. I think they look good. I think they look pretty good. Some of the questions that they needed to answer, I think they're kind of providing a little bit more context to what we're going to see throughout the season as far as like starting lineups. We didn't know who necessarily was going to be starting in place of Clay, but it's pretty clear that it's going to be Jordan Poole. At least we can safely assume so at this point. Also, the question of whether or not he'll be able to take a leap or he'll be able to, step into that role and kind of hold his own it's looking like he's going to be able to do that pretty easily and maybe even do more than we expected him to. So I think they're looking good. I mean, as far as like the question about that last roster spot, I don't know as much. I thought Avery Bradley, he's looking okay defensively, but he's looking pretty abysmal on offense. So I don't know if they're willing to spend the money to bring him in, and I don't know if he'll be worth the money if they do. So still got a little bit more questions to answer. GP2 may be healthy enough to get in one of the last 2 or so preseason games. We can get a better idea of what he's going to bring. But
what do you think they should do? Do you think they should just leave the spot empty and let the season play out and see what happens?
Right now, I think that might be the best bet, just because nobody's proven that they are worth that money. I mean, they still have the mid-level exception, I'm pretty sure. So they can always leave a roster spot open to bring somebody in with that. Hopefully on a buyout market or something like that. So right now I'm leaning towards just leaving it open. If not, well, let's just see what GP2 does. If he shows out, then I'd be cool with giving him the spot. If not, just leave it open.
Amber, how are you feeling about the preseason so far?
I so I actually haven't watched that much. I just rewatched. I had recorded the Lakers game because am I allowed to swear? I think I already
Of
have.
course. What are you doing? Of course. Your regular self. You know, I curse up a storm. I'm a cursing Christian.
My work persona, or can I?
No, I want you to be Amber.
Yeah, so every game has been like at the same time as like one of the Giants playoff games or one of the Raider games. So I've just been, watching here and there, but I did rewatch the Lakers game from the other night. And I don't know. I think they look good. I think they look, obviously better than everyone, all of the mainstream media and everyone who puts them as underdogs, as, oh, they're definitely going to be a play-in, or all the Nick Friedels and people who think they're going to suck and they're washed and they couldn't even beat, whatchamacallit,
Memphis
last year. So they ain't shit, this and that. I was listening to him on the radio.
Friedel was saying this?
Yeah. he was saying that their season depends on what James Wiseman does. I was like, this idiot. But
does he still cover the Warriors?
I don't know. He goes on 95.7 sometimes as like a fill-in when someone is out, though. So that's the only reason I heard him. But so it's, to me, it's especially like, you cover them. You should know how good Steph is, how good Dre is. So I feel like it's like an extra jab when someone who actually covers them is talking like that. But yeah,
I don't even think they'll be in a playing position. I think they'll be ahead of that. Am I bugging?
This was like a week or two. I think this was before preseason started, so I'll give him that. He hadn't seen them, but I just feel like every time I hear media talking about them, they're always you know what I mean? They think they're not that good. Like they act like they're in the range of like 8, 9. They'll be like, well, maybe if Steph has another MVP year, and maybe if Clay comes back and he can, actually be Clay again, then maybe they could be the 7 seed, or you know what I mean? That's the type of attitude they have. So I think we're gonna be a lot better, and that will surprise people. And Jordan Poole, I think, yeah, he's a revelation. Like, I knew he was going to be good. I saw, especially in that last playing game, you could tell like he really took a leap. Like his confidence was really building. But I knew he was going to have a good season, but I didn't even expect him to be like starting out this well. So I think he's going to keep getting better, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan has been the story, right, of preseason. Eric, what do you think about preseason? Obviously, Jordan, and anything else that you've noticed.
Yeah. So I think when you put guys who can dribble, pass, shoot around Steph Curry, good things are going to happen. And when you have, see, Amber, I'm probably just as annoyed as you with people who cover the team and don't know really what's going on. Last year, they had like 8 G Leaguers on the roster, like 8 G Leaguers, 8 guys who spent time in the G League last year, right? Last year, they ended the season 15-5 with 3 guys coming off the bench who spent time in the G League. And they went 15-5. And this is while Steph Curry was being trapped, triple teamed. At one point at the end of a Suns game, I seen 4 people on him, right? And
they were missing a lot of key guys too at that time because they had injuries, right?
Yeah, and they missed like a ton. It was a ton of injuries, and they like were 4 or 5 games on the 500, and then 6 games over, right? And it's almost like we sweep that under the rug. Like it came down to a lucky ass shot from LeBron to like knock them out of the playing game on the road, by the way, right? So I just have a problem with how people kind of cover the team, and then they don't really look at the additions that were made. You just need to put like two shooters around Steph, and it's lights out. So here's another problem that I have. They will sit there and they will gas up the Lakers, right? Like they'll say all these great things about the Lakers, about what the Lakers did and this and that, right? But they won't give Steph Curry and the Warriors the same kind of credit, right? What happened the other night in that preseason game? I don't put a whole lot into the preseason, but I put something into it. When you see Steph and another guy light up the Lakers, and then you hear LeBron coming out and saying like, "Hey, by the way, I'm only concentrating on practice right now. Not even in the actual preseason game, but practice. Practice is all I care about." Really? You care about practice instead of the actual NBA game? So that's like a legit problem for me. I'm like, why are you right? So why are we concentrating on an NBA like practice instead of an NBA game? This Lakers
Do we
season,
know why Braun hasn't been playing? He hasn't been playing. I know Rush just played the other day, but like, why are they resting them? Like, I mean, I get it, they're older, but is there something that we don't know? Is that the reason?
so apparently I have this guy that comes into my spaces, and he has insider stuff. So he's telling me that they're running like 2-hour practices or 2-a-day practices basically. So they're apparently they're trying to install like some new offense, right? And I had like a tweet the other day saying how this this really feels like that 12-13 season when they brought in Dwight Howard, they brought in Steve Nash. That's what it's starting to feel like, because they don't look good at all. Like every other team looks sharp, and they look like they have an idea what they want to do. What people are saying is that the Lakers kind of don't have an idea of what they want to do. And trust me, it shows, because if you have so many new players, why wouldn't you just want to like run a lot of that stuff and try stuff out during the preseason? They have guys not playing, missing games, they're resting, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then you hear LeBron saying that he's more focused on practice. That's interesting to me. So that's really interesting. So I mean, every media member gives LeBron like the benefit of the doubt, right? Like AD
Right.
and LeBron, they just give them the benefit of the doubt, not considering that these guys were in the play-in last year. Like, really? You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. They actually got worse in terms of like a supporting cast, but you would not believe that just by talking to these media guys and listening to them. This is that LeBron bias that I'm talking about. So
you think that's interesting. You think that they got worse, Eric?
hell yeah, they got worse.
Justin, what do you
think
think
about it?
Outside of that's a tough one. We're gonna have to wait and see. I feel like Russ at his best is better than what they had, you know what I'm saying, outside of LeBron and AD last year. But like outside of Russ, I think it's definitely questionable. They're slower, they're definitely not as good defensively. They might be a little bit better shooting the ball, but they also could be a little streaky, you know, like Melo did shoot 40%, I think, last year from three, but he's not really, I don't really see Melo as like one of those like shooter guys. You know what I'm saying? He's a scorer. He's not really like a
Right.
sit him in the corner type of like traditional shooter, like an Ariza is, who they won't have for I guess a little bit. I don't know how long he's gonna be out, but it's interesting because, you know, Russ talent wise is better than obviously Schroeder and Caruso and stuff like that. But like they fit, at least Caruso fit a little bit better, you know, next to LeBron and AD. You know, Russ is not a shooter by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be interesting, especially since they're trying to start DeAndre Jordan. So it's like you got 4 non-shooters or questionable shooters, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be a little weird. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm gonna say it's about even right now, as far as like what they had last year and what they got this year. I'm saying it's a little closer to even.
Here's my argument.
Go ahead.
Here's my argument. That Lakers team, Bron and AD missed, what was it, like 2 months? That Laker team last year held serve, meaning they literally had like almost $80 million sitting on the bench in street clothes, and that team went 500. If Kevin Durant and Steph Curry go down, that Warrior team might win. If they play 10 games, they might win 3 of them. Might, right? So I have a very hard time believing that if they held at 500, right, and they just picked up dudes, right, like pretty much off the street to play, I find it very hard that they're going to, like, if you remove those two this year, they're going to hold 500 again. No
That's
one
off the
can tell me
street.
otherwise.
They're just from off the street. They're not NBA players, Eric.
I mean, shit, like Ariza is damn near halfway out the league right now. Like, you know, he's in the league by reputation, and they have some guys in there.
What about like Malik Monk? They picked up some other guys. Can he help them?
Monk is going to help them because Monk was pretty decent last year. Like a player like that, they're going to need to play. Kent Bazemore, right? Who I hear the Lakers fans hyping up, right? Kent Bazemore is a good player, like as a minimum player, but the minutes I hear they have to play him at, I don't know about that. And you see him handling the ball in these preseason games, it looks like a train wreck. So I don't know about that.
Well, that's kind of similar to like last year with the Warriors, right? Because like when Kent Bazemore first started and was playing, he was playing.
I have to step away real quick.
No problem. He was playing well, right? And so everyone was like excited, like, oh my gosh. But then people started going down and he had to start getting more minutes. And I don't know, that was kind of like a mixed bag. I don't want to say he was awful, but like there was the fouls and just like really stupid plays. And so he seems like he can help a team playing in like limited minutes, but when you have to like give him more time, it becomes a problem. It's, you know,
Natalie,
for sure.
He cost them some really close games this year. Like if you
You're talking
put
about Kent when he was on the Warriors?
If you put Kent Bazemore or if you replace Andre Iguodala in crunch time, the Warriors are probably, instead of them being 6 games over 500, they're probably about 10 or 12 games over 500, right? He did some really silly stuff in crunch time in a lot of close games.
Do we think Andre still has like, because I'm a little skeptical about Andre. I'm not with the rest of like Dub Nation on like super excitement over Andre. Like it feels like nostalgia, but like, can he really help and contribute?
Andre has been done for about 4 years now, physically, right? But watching him on the Warriors, like even in like the last few preseason games, he knew where to be defensively, and he knew where to pass the ball on offense, right? Like it's like he knows how to make these split-second decisions, right? Draymond is nowhere near where he was in 16, but the guy just knows when somebody's going to cut, where to put the ball when that guy cuts. Like they do like really high level, high IQ stuff, right? I don't think the Warriors were ever like that loaded with talent, but they were loaded in the IQ department. They just had like really smart players, and Andre and Draymond are at the forefront of that. Andre probably doesn't have it physically. He probably hasn't had it physically in like 4 years now. When you used to watch him finish at the rim, he used to be elite. Then the last couple of years, watching him finish at the rim has been a nightmare, right?
So what can we expect out of him for this season coming up? Like, is his time going to ramp up like closer to the postseason? Is he going to be playing in the postseason or no? Like, what are you thinking?
Nah, he's going to be playing in the postseason. So I think he's going to be playing like, they're probably playing like 10 to 15 minutes just because he knows what to do, right? And he's like another coach / point guard out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he has all that stuff. I will not tell you that the guy is, like Sixers or, but he's in shape. He's just not gonna like dunk over you and do all of
Right.
that stuff. But the IQ is gonna be there. Like I think the team was lacking a lot of IQ like the last 2 years. So
Well,
they're
Amber,
gonna
I
get
know
that
you
back.
were excited about Andre coming back. Now, was that just all nostalgia, or do you really see him helping the team?
It a lot of it might be nostalgia. He was part of like the first championship team and stuff,
Of
and
course.
just like he has as much like we have as much love for him as like the homegrown guys, because it seems like he was here when we started getting good and stuff. It's just so yeah, probably a lot of it is nostalgia, but I agree that he's smart and he knows how to play in Kerr's system, and that was like such an issue last year with Bazemore and Oubre, and the players just didn't know how to play well in Kerr's system, and Kerr is so stubborn that he won't change it up. And it's like Andre knows the system, he knows what to do, he knows where to be, he can defend and get a rebound, make a pass every now and then, hit an open three or a dunk or whatever. So I think that he's definitely valuable. And sometimes he might have those random games where he's hot and he hits like three threes in a row or something. If he's playing like shit, then take him out. Like he doesn't have it that game. But I think the games where he does have, and he can still defend, better than obviously like a Bazemore or someone is more athletic, but so stupid with the fouls and stuff that I would still much prefer to have Andre, guarding Dame or someone on the last possession than Bazemore.
Yeah. I think they'll pull some like PJ Tucker Bucks type of thing where they had PJ's like your job is to guard KD, like it's to make KD's
Right.
life hell. They'll probably stick him on LeBron. LeBron is still incredibly athletic, but Andre's played against him for so long. I can't imagine them not putting them on LeBron for at least 5 minutes or
Right.
10 minutes out of a playoff game and just
That's a
say,
good point.
just give a few strips in there, that type of deal.
So, I agree that like I tend to not even listen to a lot of the coverage of the Warriors anymore, unless it's just like certain people. Like I still obviously listen to people like Marcus Thompson, Slater, other people. And I mean, not like I don't know their thoughts in terms of like how they think the season's gonna play out, but especially if they're well, even some of the local guys aren't that great. But it's clear to me that a lot of people don't watch them and weren't watching. So like their analysis is just biased. And also it seems like at least the way that everyone is talking, right? It's like Lakers, it's like presumed the Lakers are going to come out of the West. And then, you might hear them talk about the Jazz a little bit. They may talk about the Suns, but people think the Lakers are going to come out the West. And then in the East, it was like, oh, definitely, definitely, definitely the Nets. But now this whole Kyrie thing, which we'll get into a little bit later, people are now having mixed feelings and they're like, or the Bucks, but they're kind of discounting every other team, which we know that there's always going to be the favorites, but like, you're right. Like no one talks about the Warriors at all. Like I'm shocked that people think they're going to be a play-in team, but people are like, at best you make like the second round. Like they're just completely not giving them a chance. And Justin, you tend to do a lot, like when you like are tweeting and you're putting out some of your content, you often are like, okay, this needs to happen. This person needs to make a leap. This player needs to happen. You'll put out these scenarios of what's the ideal perfect scenario to give like Golden State the best chance. So can you like walk us through that? Like for Golden State to even have a chance at contending for real next year, what would need to happen ideally? And I know part of that for you may include getting someone like Ben Simmons. And I want to talk about that because I think we're sort of divided on here about whether Ben Simmons should come to the Warriors. But what needs to happen next year for them to be a contender?
Okay. So I think they can contend with or without Ben Simmons. I just think with Ben, it'll be a little bit easier to match up with the top teams. But let's say we don't get Ben, which is probably the most likely scenario. Obviously Steph and Draymond are gonna have to be Steph and Draymond, right? Like an MVP level player and a depoy, like fringe all-star level player they're gonna have to be that for the whole season in the playoffs. Jordan Poole making a leap makes things a little bit interesting, because even if he was a little bit better or the same level player that he was last year, then I think they would be in a good spot as long as Clay comes back and he's like close to what he was. That's still going to have to happen. Clay can't come back and be like a shell of himself. I think Jordan Poole gives him a little bit more leeway, but Clay's going to have to come back and still be able to play 20 to 25 minutes in the playoffs. Wiggins is going to have to, find a way to fit in with this new kind of like 3-point barrage type of style that they're going to play, which I think he can. If he kind of tones down the way he attacks, the way he approaches things, more cuts, maybe more post ups, less like mid range pull ups and stuff like that. Just kind of be like a supercharged Mikal Bridges type of deal. Focus on defense, cutting, doing the little things. They're going to have to. James Wiseman is going to have to be at least playable, because he's the only guy on our team with legit size, and as we saw in the preseason, like DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard were kind of just like having their way on the boards and just getting lobs and stuff like that. And I mean, in the playoff setting, they're probably just going to put Draymond on a lot of these guys, but still, like he can't play the whole game, So, I guess outside of that, Otto Porter's going to have to stay healthy. The team itself is going to have to stay relatively healthy for obviously the majority of the season and going into the playoffs. And they're going to have to find a way to defend and rebound. Offensively, they're going to be, any team with Steph Curry, like you said, with guys that can pass, dribble, and shoot, they're going to be a good offense. But they lost a little bit, I guess, on the defensive end, even though Oubre wasn't the best, but he was still a defensive player. Bazemore, he had his fouls and stuff, but he was still a defensive player. They're replacing these guys with like more offensive-minded guys, but not as effective on defense, like one-on-one.
Can they have a top 10 defense?
I think so. I mean, it's Draymond. Draymond is gonna get you close to mid-level at least. Even if he's surrounded with nobodies. So, like I said, if you give Steph anybody that can dribble, pass, and shoot, you're going to be a top offense. If you can give Draymond anybody with like length that can at least listen to him on defense, you're going to have a good defense. It's all about matchups once you get to the playoffs, but I guess like health is probably the main thing. Like they just have to be pretty much healthy.
So what's their ceiling? If everything goes well, will they need, okay, you mentioned Wiseman. He's not really a rookie, but he kind of is because of the way last season went. But will they need either of the rookies? Do they need something from either one of them?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think their ceiling is like if everything cracks right? Like Wiggins is like blowing Mikal Bridges. I use Mikal Bridges as like his comp because I think that's like kind of similar role he'll be able to play on his team, but like just a higher caliber of that version. If Wiggins is that, Otto's healthy, you look at their top 6 or 7 players, and it's like Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, Otto, Wiggins, Draymond, JTA. It's like it's not many teams that can match that 7. Like, what I'm saying, 1 through 7. They're obviously the Lakers have like 1 through 3 that are pretty talented, and then the Suns and the Jazz are top heavy as far as their talent level. But as far as depth, versatility, length, shooting ability, I'm saying guys that can pass, guys that have high IQs, it's like not many teams can match their top 7 or 8 if they're all healthy and all clicking and reaching their ceiling. So I think their ceiling is the finals. I don't know if Brooklyn is hitting their ceiling, they'll be able to, match Brooklyn's talent, but I definitely think they can beat the Lakers if they hit their ceiling.
And what do you think, Eric?
I think we're giving the Lakers way too much credit. I don't know if people noticed this, but last year in the playoffs, there was a lot of young dudes emerging last year. And those young guys that we saw last year, the Trae Youngs and all of those guys are going to take a leap again. I actually don't think the Lakers are as potent as we think. They're an older team, and at some point that gas is going to run out, and I think it's going to be this year. The Warriors have young guys. They got younger, and they have more talented guys. Man, what I saw last year from the Warriors, it was just a mishap after mishap after mishap. Like, they had no clear direction. Watching these preseason games the last 2 years, watching the last 2 years of preseason games, it's apparent that they just had no direction. Watching them this year, it's apparent there is just more structure. People just look happier. You know what I'm saying? Like,
They do look
you
happy.
saw Steph on the bench, you just look.
They do look happy.
He just looks happier. You know what I'm saying? Jordan Poole is just playing with so much confidence right now. Like, last year in the middle of the year.
What's his ceiling? I mean, I know people are talking MIP, but most improved player. But like, what is his actual ceiling this season and just overall? Because I think he's emerging into a player or a level that a lot of us didn't see.
Well, I saw it. Like his comp was last year. I had his comp as CJ McCollum, right? And if we go back to that 15-16 year, we saw where CJ McCollum, we saw where he took that step, right? Where he wasn't starting or anything. This year, Jordan Poole is going to start because Klay Thompson is out. And he can dribble, pass, shoot. He's a clear 3 levels player, right? If you look at his stats last year, he was like 53% effective field goal. He was averaging like 12 points a game, and he was averaging like 19 minutes or something like that. This year, he'll probably get his 30 minutes. And I think why Warrior fans are so excited is that the last time they had a guy like that who could dribble, pass, shoot, and be like a threat off of Steph Curry was Kevin Durant, right? So not even Klay Thompson, you can say, is like a dribble, pass, shoot threat. Right. Klay is more of like a motion threat, which I think is just as good. Don't get me wrong. Like I see people on Twitter all the time downplaying the motion stuff. You can't downplay the motion stuff because the motion stuff is the counter to the off-ball stuff. And that stuff is what you need to win a title. And title teams have guys that can play off-ball and do different things. So you're definitely going to need that element. But Jordan Poole, it looks like he's just been like watching those guys for the last 2 years. And he's been prepping as such. So it's almost like a lot of that stuff we're seeing manifests itself now. Like him just being around those guys every day in practice, and him just listening to and watching every single thing that Steph and Klay and just kind of what they're preaching in practice. And I would say his ceiling right now is like a CJ McCollum type. A guy that's probably going to average in the low 20s. You give him like 17 to 20 shots, he's probably going to average in the low 20s. He's going to give you just a secondary type of ball handler. And it's funny because we wanted to trade away Jordan Poole and Wiggins and all of this stuff for Bradley Beal. This is why, because so now I'm hearing people like walk all of that shit back now, right? And I'm like, I said this on the spaces and people thought I was insane. I was like, why would you trade for Brad Beal when you have Jordan Poole here? And people looked at me like I was insane. And I was like, nah, first of all, I knew the leap that he was about to take, right? Like I seen it. Like I looked at the stats and I'm like, his per 36 is like Harden back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and the guy has the skills. So I kind of saw that leap and I'm like, why are we trading for Brad Beal? Like how many freaking guards do we need on the team? You know? So I'm like, just bring the young guys in, pray to God one of them pops, right? And then all of a sudden, we're gonna have like an issue. Steve Kerr's gonna have an issue with who he should play. Well, you know what? That's what I'm seeing in the preseason, where it's like all of these older vets are in front of the rookies now. And I think that's, we're going to have a problem. And I think the rookies are going to need to outplay somebody in practice now, which is a great problem to have, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right. Because I want to start talking about some of the other teams around the league, but I do want to just touch on Ben Simmons because there's been like a little war going on or a divide in between the fan base in terms of should the Warriors go after Ben Simmons? Should they not? I am one of the people who is not pro Ben Simmons, but I'm also someone who's like, all right, a lot of people think that we should. A lot of people who I respect and think are really smart thinks he would be a good fit. So, I'm on board, but I'm really not on board. So, Justin, I know that you think Ben Simmons would be good here. Amber, I know that you don't want Ben Simmons. And Eric, I think you go back and forth like me. So, Justin, walk us through like what are the pros of getting Ben Simmons?
Well, in the playoffs, like I said, it's all about like matchups and usually whoever has the better finishing lineup is the team that's probably going to win the game and then ultimately win the series, right? So if you bring Ben Simmons in, you don't have to send anybody that is a key rotational player out other than Andrew Wiggins, who he's clearly better than, I feel like. At least individually, right? Now for this team, you can debate whether or not Wiggins fits better than Ben Simmons, but I think individual talent, you could just look at their resume and just make a determination that Ben Simmons is probably the better player. Now, when you look at matchups, let's say hypothetically Clay comes back and he's about 80% of what he once was, right? If you roll out a finishing five of Steph, Clay, Ben Simmons, Draymond, and you can even put Jordan Poole, right? Or Jordan Poole or Otto Porter, right? It doesn't really matter. At that point, they'll be guarding a wing. So they won't be, point of attack defense or backline defense. It doesn't really matter. You have arguably the best perimeter defender in the league guarding point guards, right? Let's say you match up with the Lakers. You put Ben Simmons on LeBron and you put Draymond on AD. It's like you can't really get a better matchup for those two in the league, right? If you play the Suns, you put Ben Simmons on, I don't know, Booker, put Clay on Chris Paul. He's a little slow now. Put Clay on Chris Paul and have Draymond just kind of make DeAndre Ayton's life hell. So you can just defensively, they will match up with anybody, and I think offensively, Ben Simmons gives them a rim pressure threat that they don't really have. His handle is clearly better than Andrew Wiggins is, and he's better at the rim finishing than Andrew Wiggins. So I think the pressure that he puts on the rim and his ability to find guys once the defense collapses is elite level. Like he's averaged 6, 7 assists, 8 assists, for his career. He's just one of those big guys that you have to respect going to the rim. And he's one of those big guys that sees the floor like a LeBron type, a Harden, a Jokic type,
So what position would he be playing on the Warriors?
On defense, he'll be a point guard. On offense, he'll be like power forward, center.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Similar to Draymond, and especially if Draymond's, he's hit threes in the preseason. We don't know if that's going to last, but like if he's hitting 1 out of 3 threes, then you can put Draymond in the corner and put Ben Simmons setting the screen for Steph at the top of the key. And it's like, okay, how do you guard that? You know what I mean? Like you send 2 to Steph, and that's Ben Simmons rolling straight to the rim with the full head of steam. He's probably going to dunk on you, or you can switch and put Ben Simmons in the dunker spot and have Draymond set the screen for Steph. If he's rolling, the lob that we've seen him throw to Andre Iguodala 1,000 times is now going on to Ben Simmons. And it's like, I think at this point, he's probably not going to do the whole pass it to Matisse Thybulle thing at the end of a game. He's probably just going to dunk it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just hard to imagine how a team will be able to guard them with Steph and Clay and Jordan Poole running around those two, even if they aren't great spacers themselves. So you put 3 other movement shooters around them. I think it make up for the spacing issues you may have with Ben and Dre. And then defensively, they'll be able to guard anybody.
So if he's on the Warriors and they're closing, the closing lineup is who? It's Steph, Dre, Ben, Andrew,
Clay,
and Clay, or Andrew's gone. I'm sorry. So Clay
and one more movement shooter, whether it be Otto if they're playing a bigger team, or Jordan Poole if they're playing a smaller team or something like that. Whoever's hotter that game, I would probably go with Jordan Poole right now just because he can do a little bit more off the bounce. But if Jordan Poole just doesn't prove to be a great enough defender or a good enough defender to trust in the late games, and you maybe put Otto in there, but like if you already see, what Steph and Jordan Poole can do, what I'm saying, offensively. So it's like you put Clay next to that, it's pretty hard to imagine how they wouldn't be able to score, even though Dre and Ben's men wouldn't necessarily be guarding them too closely. They'll still be able to get points. They're just too good offensively, those two guys plus Clay. So
Amber, hearing what Justin said, does this change your mind at all? Like, are you interested in Ben Simmons?
No.
now one thing I'll say, Jordan's contract situation makes things interesting, right? Because if you bring in Ben, I think his contract is like 1 or 2 years longer than Wiggins. So if you extend Jordan, it's going to be pretty tough to keep all of those guys. Like if you bring in Ben, Jordan's probably going to have to go, or he's going to have to settle for an underpay. Whereas if Wiggins stays, I'm pretty sure they'll be okay with just giving Wiggins the boot and then paying Jordan his money. So that I haven't addressed that yet. So
all right. So Amber, I wanna, because I haven't heard from you in a while. What I think I know like what your issues are with Ben. I have my own, but what's the reason why you're opposed to him coming and joining the Warriors, or for them trading for him rather?
What one of the biggest things is just that he has no heart. He's in the way he plays all scary and shit at the end, especially in the playoffs. Like he plays decent in the regular season, but the way he plays scary in the playoffs, like I can't with players who have no heart. Like I don't care how good you are, how athletic you are, how well you can pass and stuff. If you have no heart, I don't want you on my team. And he's consistently showed no heart in the playoffs, and we got the worst last season. So I just I'm not interested.
That's fair.
At all. He can't shoot. Steph finally has a team with spacing, and that would, you know what I mean, take away some of the spacing that Steph is finally. It would still be better maybe than last year, but yeah, I don't like how scary he is, his inability to shoot. He makes Draymond look like a decent jump shooter, and Dre, no defender respects Dre, so he's even worse. Like you don't even need to think about guarding him at all. It's, you know what I mean? That's just an extra defender that can go to Steph. That way you can double Steph and double Clay. I don't think he's worth. If Philly would trade him straight up for Wiggins, then I wouldn't really care. Sure, why not? But they're not just going to trade him straight up for Wiggins. They're going to want, a bunch of picks and stuff, and it's going to go into, to me, he's not worth all of that. If, he was super cheap and came for, just Wiggins or something and maybe like one pick, maybe I would be okay with it. But, with all of his flaws and, trying to take the risk of you think he's going to change, and then you also have to give up a bunch of picks for it. Like, to me, that's just not worth it at all. And then especially what Justin was saying about, the contract situation that could come up too, it just, he's not worth all of that to me at all. I think Wiggins is just a better fit. I think the defense Wiggins has proved himself enough as a defender that, the defense will be fine with him, and it's not really, there isn't a need to make a drastic trade for defense to do all that just to get Ben.
Eric, have you, because I know sometimes you're like, okay, you think you can work with Ben, and then other times you're like against it. Where do you stand today?
So I agree with everything that Justin says. It is true. Like he does put pressure on the rim. Like if you look at he's a great playmaker. He's a really great playmaker. I think he's on the level of, there was a point like about 3 years ago, right? When I looked at him and I looked at Giannis, right? And I thought that Giannis was like a hair better. And then you watch him now, like you've been watching him for the last 2 seasons, and it just feels like he's gotten worse. And I don't think people notice that. And then like he's been in like what 3-4 playoff series now, and it's almost like he got worse. Like when Jimmy Butler was there in 19 compared to now, like when they had him in the damn dunker spot and you saw what they had to do with him, it caused me to pause. And I know what's going to happen. When Warrior fans see Steph Curry running even more, they're going to get annoyed, right? Because he's running too much. He's been running too much for like the last 4 years. I'm sick and tired of seeing him running, man. Like, give the ball to Poole, give the ball to Steph, and have those dudes cook, man. Like, I'm sick and tired of like liabilities having the ball, man. Like, enough of this sacrificing bullshit. Like, I am so sick and tired of seeing it. So, I mean, yeah, Steph is the most portable. You can put Steph with anyone in the history of the league and he would make it work. But why? Like, why does he have to sacrifice more? Bro, I'm sick and tired of seeing that shit, man. How many more fucking laps do you need to do to run? Like, fuck, like, Draymond works offensively because of Steph. And you're going to put another dude like him? Like, come on, man. Like, fuck, like, that's my thing. But I do get the defense. I do get the pressure on the rim and all of that, right? So if you put Ben Simmons at the top of the key with the ball, what's Draymond going to do? Vice versa. If you put Draymond on the top of the key, you know what I'm saying? And then you're worried about the crunch time stuff, the free throws and all of that. Like,
yeah, you actually scared me, Justin, when you said like Dre in the corner. Like, I mean, Dre has showed up big in big games. I shouldn't doubt him, but that makes me nervous.
Oh yeah, I mean, rightfully so. But the thing is, like, the thing with Dre and Ben is that they're also very high IQ players. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say Dre's man completely sags off him in the corner, right? And the ball ends up in his hands. 9 times out of 10, Dre might shoot it, right? He might shoot it. So we've seen him hit big shots in the playoffs. But 9 times out of 10, he's just going to call Steph or Clay over for a dribble handoff, screen their man, and his guy is not going to have enough time to recover, and it's a three. You know what I mean? How many times have we seen him just like, hey, come get this handoff. My guy's not guarding me. My guy's not going to be able to close out on you because you know what I'm saying? They shoot so quick. I don't know. I think they can make it work. And then, I mean, it's a counterpoint or a counter argument to the heart stuff. You know, that's a fair point. You know, like he's shown that he is like weak mentally in certain situations. You know, time and time again, he's kind of shrunk in certain situations. My thing is like in Philly, it just didn't seem like he had the structure or like the leadership there to kind of put him in line and just kind of, you know, be like, yo, cut that shit out. You know what I'm saying? Like Draymond, Steve Kerr, Steph, Andre, Clay, like these dudes are like winners. You know what I'm saying? They're not like Embiid, who's somebody who's trying to learn how to win. You know what I'm saying? Or like Brett Brown, whoever the coach is, Doc Rivers, who's, I mean, has won once and then it was like, was he even the leader of that team? You know what I mean? Like these guys are he's on a team full of guys that don't know how to win and aren't leaders themselves. So he's trying to find his way amongst an organization that's coddling him along and just not really putting the pressure on him to be that guy. And he'll be coming to a team where he doesn't have any pressure at all to be the guy. He's just another guy. You know what I mean? Same reason, same way, like a lot of people thought Wiggins wouldn't work here. Weak mentally, lacking skill, can't play him at the end of games. And it's like, we put him here and he looks better than he's ever looked. You know what I mean?
So I'm glad you brought up Wiggins because I was going to say that people make that comp all the time. And I don't think it's the same thing. I mean, maybe people said Wiggins was weak mentally, but I thought a lot of the critique around him was just that like he didn't act like he cared, like he didn't show passion, things like that. But I don't know. I never thought of him as like a player who like he may have not been that good, but like he wasn't scared to take a shot. In many, you know, they would go to him or, you know, whatever. But like with Ben, I feel like there's like a legit fear. Like he's shook when he's on the court, you know, like even Dre, it's like Dre's gonna take the shot. It may not go in. It's gonna be some stupid shit. But like in that moment, in the biggest moment, Dre's gonna do what he has to. And I feel like Ben keeps showing me he's not gonna do what he has to. And so that's honestly, that's one thing that makes me nervous. But also his handling of this whole situation. Like I get that, like, yeah, they threw him under the bus, whatever, but not whatever. My point is that this is like some real diva mentality stuff that we're watching right now, you know? Yeah. And I feel like with Ben Simmons, it's always like everyone's doing stuff to accommodate him. The Sixers, right? Like this is why Joel Embiid isn't like living in the paint, right? You know, he's changed his game, modified, you know, to help Ben. They got shooters to accommodate Ben. Like it's all to accommodate Ben. And I just feel like everyone, all these teams, they're always going out their way. They got rid of Jimmy to accommodate Ben. And we're still in a situation now where he won't even return to the team. And he's like, I'm done, you know? So what happens if he comes to the Warriors and it doesn't work? I mean, his mentality, like, I don't know about this guy. It's like something in my gut, you know? I don't know. That makes me nervous.
I mean, that's fair too. I mean, I have no real, you know, rebuttal to that other than like, I guess you could just hope that a change of scenery will kind of, you know what I'm saying, have them grow up a little bit, you know, a more serious organization will have them grow up a little bit.
Because if he comes to the Warriors and pulls that bullshit again, they're like stuck, right? Like no one's trading for him.
Yeah, and I guess the only saving grace that I would say is like a reason why I don't think he would do something like that is because him and Draymond are both clutch. You know, I don't think he'll, you know what I'm saying, and Moody. So he got like his clutch guys here, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, Moody's
like,
clutch too?
Moody is clutch, yeah. So we got a few clutch guys in there. I think he'll fall in line for his fellow clutchians.
All right. So but we don't think he's gonna end up on the Warriors. That's what you started by saying. No. So
yeah, I don't think
where do you think what's gonna happen with Ben Simmons? What do you guys think? No clue.
I think Mini is the team that really wants him. So I think they'll figure out some type of trade. I think they're really the only team that wants him. So I think it's just going to come down to when they end up, you know, when who is it? Morey is the GM, right, for Philly.
But that's complicated, right? Because doesn't Towns want to keep D'Angelo Russell, right? Isn't that like what the issue is?
I'm guessing he does. I don't know. They're probably, you know, not obviously if they were on the same page about a deal, it would have happened because Minnie wants him a lot. So I think Morey is probably like holding out, you know, trying to get more than whatever they're offering. But, you know, when it goes, you know, a month or two into the season, however long it goes, and they're just without him, I think, you know, they'll finally budge. And I think he's going to go to Minnie because I think that's mainly the team that wants him.
Do you think he's really prepared to give up his the whole season and not play?
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like Morey's stubborn enough too. Like I don't see him taking pennies on the dollar for him, no matter what. Like, I don't think he's just gonna take a deal to take a deal.
I don't think he has a choice because every team in the league right now are like vultures. Like these GMs, right? Like it's interesting with these GMs because all of them are on Twitter, right? And this is your scorecard, right? So if somebody fleeces Daryl Morey, right? Like they will be at these events and this is how they get propped up and there'll be the Twitter buzz about who fleeced Morey and they got who won pennies of the dollar and all of that, right? So every guy is out there like giving the worst package to Daryl Morey right now because one, he wants to leave, and two, he's saying that he's not going to ever play for them again, right? Like, and three, he's saying that he's willing to give up money, right? So he has no choice but to trade him. So I think he's a valuable player, but his value is so low and he's killed his value so much that Daryl Morey has to take the best bullshit package, right? Because it's not going to get the same kind of value back for him. Like This is a guy that finished second in Defensive Player of the Year, right? And he's like a legit 6'10" point guard. You know what I'm saying? So he has value, but man, like
I just don't understand why. I don't understand why everyone says he has to like trade him. If I was Daryl Morey, I wouldn't. I mean, that's just me though. I'd like, okay, well, I'm just gonna wait too. Like,
I mean,
what will the Sixers look like without Ben? Like, are they a playoff team?
Yeah, they're a playoff team without him.
First round, second round?
They might win a round without him. Might. All right. So say
I don't think they will.
You don't.
They might win a round without him.
Depends on the matchup.
Depends on the matchup, right? And the East is just that bad. In the West, yeah. In the East, they might win a round. In the West, the top half of the East is good. Not the bottom half. The bottom half is trash. But
so where would they be? Would they be like a 5, a 4 seed or lower?
They're like a 5 or a 6 without Ben Simmons.
So they couldn't be any of those teams at the top half of the East.
No.
And who are the teams at the top half of the East? Let's just make sure we're clear on who they are. It's Bucks, Nets, not necessarily the order, but it's Bucks, Nets, Miami?
Bucks, Nets, Miami. Yeah, Bucks,
Atlanta,
Nets, Miami.
Boston.
Atlanta, probably, yeah, Boston.
Atlanta,
Boston.
I think Atlanta is a top 4 team.
Yeah, they lost to Atlanta with Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And Atlanta's probably the worst out of those 4 teams. I don't think they would win.
But they shouldn't have lost to Atlanta, right? Like, I don't think that they should have lost that series.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah. I mean, they probably lost.
But they did, though.
But
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, so you guys said, we just said Nets, we said Bucks, you said Hawks, you said Celtics. That's 4 teams. Heat 2, right? So that's 5. So at least those 5 teams we think are all better than the Sixers without Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Yep. So that puts them in like 6.
Like in that. Yeah, I think they're like in that 6 range. Embiid
Chicago might be better.
Chicago. Yeah.
But you also
Chicago might be better.
Happen with injury and whatnot, so probably.
With who? What was that?
You don't know what's going to happen with injury. Always one of the teams, frequently one of the teams who everyone has at the top might fall a little bit because, if like Lowry and Jimmy are hurt a lot, Miami falls from like a 3 seed to, the 8 seed or something. You know what I mean? There's probably with the older guys and shit, probably at least one of those teams will fall out and be lower. And you never know. Embiid might, ball out and play a lot better without Ben, and maybe they make it work better. They manage to be like 4 seed or something. I could see.
But we think it's unlikely there'll be any of those teams ahead of them. Like if everyone's healthy, they can't beat one of those teams that would be ahead of them.
Yeah. They weren't doing it with Ben either, though. So what's the difference?
Well, they got to the second round, right? They should have won with Ben. I mean, whatever. We don't need to revisit that, but like, I think that they should have won that series. So, okay. So the Sixers are screwed basically if they don't get a trade. But if they get a trade, I guess my point is like, if I'm Morey and I'm getting a shit trade that's not going to do anything to make me better, then why do the trade? Like if we're going to still get to the playoffs, and the trade isn't going to help me at least get to the second round and out of it, then why do it?
But the trade should. I mean, they should get, at least a decent player back and, a young guy or a few picks. I mean, they're not going to get like nothing for him, but it's just not going to be what they were originally asking for when they wanted, like an all-star player plus 4 picks or whatever their original asking price was.
And I never thought they were going to get anything like that. But like you had a team like the Kings who was saying like they weren't even willing to give up, and I wouldn't either, but they weren't willing to give up Fox straight up for Ben. They were like Halliburton's off the table. Like they didn't want to give them anyone. So it's just like Buddy Hield, I think, was maybe on the table, and I don't remember who else. So like, is Buddy Hield going to help the Sixers enough?
Like, Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes or, whatever. I don't think that would work with contract, but whatever type of players they get, they would help more than having just a hole, a blank, just nothing there with all that salary. So I think even if the trade is shit, it's still gonna help. It's still gonna help them, at least this current team.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap up in the West, because I just want to know, like, who do you guys see? Do you see the Warriors being in the top half, one of the top 4 seeds?
I think it's possible. I would put them. I would say they'd be no lower than 6, but I mean I can see them as high as 3rd, 2nd.
Who are the teams that you think are definitely better than them?
Regular season wise, barring injury, the Lakers are probably going to win more games. Other than that, I wouldn't pencil in anybody to be for sure better than them. Well, maybe Utah. Let's go Utah. Utah is going to put up a bunch of threes.
I think the Lakers might struggle to like find chemistry. I think they might go on like a run, maybe once they figure it out. But I think they might, kind of like be a 500 team for, especially the way they looked in preseason. I could see them, struggling a bit early. So I don't think they're gonna like go off on a run and be the number 1 seed. I could see them kind of struggling a bit at first too.
What about the Suns? Because I know I keep hearing all the Suns fans saying like, oh, we're sleeping on them. A lot of people keep making the comp with the Suns and the 2015 Warriors who won their first year. Like basically, I mean, they didn't win, but it's like, we got there and like no one's kind of giving us our respect. I mean, are the Suns the real deal?
They shouldn't.
I don't either, but let me not say that. I give them their respect, but I don't see them like getting back there.
Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, the 2015 Warriors, quote unquote, faced a bunch of injured teams, right? They still played every member of the All-NBA first team, right? Unlike the Suns, who played an injured LeBron, injured AD, injured Kawhi, injured Jamal Murray. It's like, these are top players on these teams. You know what I mean? They barely got past the Clippers. They almost went 7 with the Clippers with no Kawhi. So it's like, you guys are good, but it's like Chris Paul's going to be another year older. They got a little bit deeper. So I feel like, I mean,
was Ayton taking a leap though?
Yeah. Ayton's going to take a leap. Cam Johnson, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, they're going to all get better. Outside of their core, I don't know how good they're going to be. Jay Crowder's not getting any younger. Chris Paul obviously is not getting any younger. So unless Devin Booker turns into like an MVP caliber player, then I don't know how good they're going to be as far as like the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like the regular season, they're going to win a lot of games. Them in Utah, they're just going to win a lot of games just based on the style they play. And they have like very good like starting fives, you know what I mean? So they'll probably have a better record than the Warriors, but I can also see them not. I can also see the Warriors, getting like 1 or 2 games ahead of them, if everything breaks right,
And what about Denver? Because Jamal Murray is going to come back this season, right? Sometime during the season?
Probably late season or after the All-Star break.
Because I see a lot of people being like, they're better than us. And I'm just like, why is everyone just like so low on the Warriors? Like, I know I get it. We're fans of the team, so we're biased. But like, I just don't see how you watch what happened last season and see the change that they've made this season and just think like it's going to be like they're going to still be struggling again at the bottom. I don't understand that.
I think a lot of people don't watch the Warriors at all. You know what I mean? So they don't know. You look on paper, it's like, okay, Otto Porter's on a minimum deal. He hasn't played any real basketball in like 2 seasons. He's been hurt. Who is JTA? Who is Jordan Poole? Who is, Kevon Looney? These players that don't really jump off the page, but we know they're good players. You know what I mean? Whereas Denver has like MPJ, who averaged like 20 points last year, lottery pick. Jokic is obviously the MVP. They got a bunch of like known role players. Even with Jamal Murray out, we've seen Monte Morris and we know who Austin Rivers is and these guys. So they're safer picks, you know what I mean? And obviously the Warriors haven't made the playoffs in the last 2 years, so it's easy to write the Warriors off and say, okay, Denver went to the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. Suns went to the finals. The Jazz had the best record in the league last year. So it's easy to
say
just
that like they don't know we weren't missing key guys. It's just crazy. It's like, I guess what I think like frustrates me is that like no matter what, Bron always gets the benefit of the doubt. Like, he doesn't make the postseason one year, and then it's like, okay, he's going to be MVP. He's going to be like, you know, the Lakers are going to be number one, whatever, right? And then you look at, like, Steph just finished third in MVP, right? And this year, they have him maybe as the fifth best chance to get it. Luka as the first, and like Warriors barely making it. Like, I don't understand. It's like every year this man has to keep, and it's, for me, it's not individually about him, but it's just like, if he's that level of player, when you have a team that has that kind of guy, they always have a chance, in my opinion. You know, if you have a Bron, a Katie, a Steph, I mean, obviously you have to get some guys around them, but they're always going to give you a chance because they're that level of player. It's kind of like what you were saying about Book, right? Like, he's not there yet. So he's a great player, but he's not that tier one kind of guy. He's not a Giannis. He's not, you know, one of those people. So why do the Warriors have a player like Steph and like they keep getting overlooked? I don't understand it. I know, Eric, you probably have a lot of thoughts on this. Tell me why.
Steph Curry is the most disrespected top tier player ever. He just is. Steph Curry is the best offensive player ever. I don't care what anyone wants to say. He is the best He is the best, most impactful offensive player that we've ever seen. By any metric, you can measure that, right? So you give that man shooting, space, other vets or whatever, they're going to the finals. Barring injury, they're going to the finals. It's really that simple. And it's funny because this is what drives me nuts, is that we give LeBron all of this leeway and said, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. LeBron isn't as an impactful player as Steph is. And any metric will tell you that, right? But for some reason, we always gloss over that, right? And then next thing you know, two guys are doubling Steph, and then people are getting layups. You know, the Warriors led the league last year in layups and in dunks.
And dunks.
Why does that happen? In dunks, a jump shooting team leads the league in dunks. Why does that happen?
They had only one guy who can dribble.
Come on,
I
man.
know, that's wild.
Terrible spacing.
Right? With horrible spacing. So it's like, you're going to give him more spacing, and what? You think they're going to finish outside the top three? Let me say this. The only reason they will finish outside of the top three is if Steph plays like 60 games. That's the only way. If that man plays like 75 games, they're going to win like 55 at least, right? It's really that simple. Steph, Clay, Draymond, and this Jordan Poole that we're seeing, there is no way that they finish outside the top three. Right?
Are they going to need time to gel? Like, do we see this being a team that's going to, because, I mean, there's not that many new players to work in. And, like, most of the people already kind of know the system. So
that is not what I'm seeing in the preseason, right?
Right. Like, it doesn't look like that, but I'm just, you know, do you guys think there's going to be, because, I mean, they Wiseman has to be a part of it this year, right? I mean, that's what it sounded like you were saying earlier, Justin.
Not
right?
Really.
You don't think so, Eric?
I don't think. Nah.
I know Amber does not want Wiseman to be a part of it. Do you want Wiseman traded, Amber?
I don't care if he gets traded. I just think right now he's not ready to play on this team with them having, you know, aspirations to contend. He doesn't fit that. He's not ready at all. Like you say, oh, he's our only player with size. We need him back, but he doesn't know how to box out well. He doesn't know how to rebound. So what good is he going to do against size? Like create fouls and stuff when he's trying to get a rebound. He can't, the ball like bounces off of his hands when he's trying to rebound. Like I just feel like he has so much work to do. I really just wish they would just put him in the G League and try to develop him there and not try to.
Jesus
I think
Christ.
they will. No, I think he'll be in the G League at some point.
You do? You think he's going to the G League?
I think he'll play I think he'll probably practice with them or something at least. I don't know if he'll play in a G League game, but he'll be mixed in with the Santa Cruz guys.
It would do them a lot of good because having limited minutes, more of his I don't see how this is going to help him develop, having more of his, more pressure on him with a team that's trying to win more. It was bad enough last year when they, weren't chasing wins. So I feel like it's going to be even more pressure on him now, and he's going to have less minutes and, feel more pressure on himself to do better. And he hasn't really been able to, have any training camp or anything because of his injury. Every time we went on a run last year, it was like when he was hurt. So it troubles me to think of him coming back in and having to see that again. It doesn't excite me much.
This team is small though. Like at some point we need some size, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's what they
we don't.
To do with the
We don't.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay, explain why, please.
Everyone is small. Look at the playoffs last year. Look at how the Clippers finished off Utah last year. Look what happened in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I don't believe in Utah. But Ayton.
But they're one of those teams though. Honestly, ideally, I would love, best case scenario for me in terms of that size discrepancy is hoping that Kuminga pops. If Kuminga pops, that solves a lot of problems, right? It solves a lot of that size problem. If you can throw him in there and you can throw him on one of those centers or whatever, and he can hold his own, that's good, but he has to pop. Who knows? We still need to see if that will happen. But in terms of the centers, right? The worst case scenario for the Warriors at the center is what? Looney and Looney against Ayton. First of all, what are teams going to do if the Warriors go small? Are they going to throw the ball into Ayton on the post? That's exactly what I want them to do, right? So throw the ball in inside the Ayton and have him attack mismatches. Oh, I would love for you to do that against Draymond Green. I would love that. That's the best case scenario. Now, are you going to beat them up on the glass? First of all, the Suns have one big, right? And the rest of those guys are wings, right? If the Lakers go big, they put two centers on the court, best case scenario. So, bro, play up tempo and shoot a bunch of threes, man. We've been begging for this shit. The Warriors loaded up on bigs the last couple of years, and it was the stupidest shit that they ever did. What they're doing now with the wings is exactly what they should do. Kuminga, to me, was the right pick because he's a bigger guy. So I'm crossing my fingers that he pops. He needs to work on his shot and all of that. But there's some stuff there with him. But this is what they should have been doing. Everyone around the league is playing small now. I don't think the size thing, I don't think you should invest too much in size. Honestly, kind of looking at it now, how things turned out with Wiseman, they probably should have drafted LaMelo and tried to replace that size with a JaVale type of big, right? I saw what they tried to do because they watched the playoffs, they watched the Lakers, and they overreacted to Anthony Davis. That was the wrong thing to do. They should have drafted a playmaker. They should have drafted LaMelo Ball or Halliburton or one of those guys. That's what they should have done.
Gosh, you're just feeding into this topic, huh? Nah, it's okay. You feel the same way too, Justin? Amber?
As far as LaMelo?
Yeah.
At this point, yeah, LaMelo looks like he's
Well, yeah, this is hindsight, but
yeah.
Do we not think that Wiseman can one day become decent? I don't know what decent means.
I think he can be an all-star one day, but it's just it's going to take too long relative to what they want to do, maximizing the core's prime. You know what I'm saying?
For him to become an all-star, in my opinion, right? He has to be highly skilled to become an all-star. Okay, so he needs to be it needs to be the point where he's shooting 60% at the rim, right? He has to shoot 60% at the rim. He has to get the ball and he has to make plays out the post. They tried that with him last year, and it was an absolute train wreck. The next thing he needs to do, he needs to switch out on point guards. Anytime they switched about at a point guard, it was a wreck. Whenever they funneled people to him at the rim, he looked much better. But when point guards attacked him, he looked like an absolute train wreck, right? So then I looked at it and I was like, God. And then he got hurt like the first time he got hurt. And they put Walter Anderson at center, right? And then the team started to play better. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, did we really just waste a draft pick, right? Like I really felt like they overreacted to what Anthony Davis did in the playoffs. Like Anthony Davis is just a different type of monster. You know what I'm saying? Now, best case scenario is that he gets better at those things that I just mentioned, and he makes a leap. Now, the pro to it is that when you actually look at his numbers and you compare his numbers to like other rookie type of bigs,
they're in the same ballpark.
Like, he's in the same ballpark and he comps well, right? But I think, I don't know, we could be overreacting. You know, this is we do have championship level expectations. And I do think if you put him on another team, his role was simpler, he would look better. But I think I'm sorry, Justin, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's what they're going to try to do with him this year. They're probably going to stash him in the second unit and put him with Jordan Poole, who's primarily, you know, one of those hybrid pick and roll, newer, modern guards. He obviously can play off the ball very well as well, but I think they'll try to just run some type of two-man game with those two, and it'll be, if Jordan Poole is like this, you know, shooter off the dribble that we've seen him be in the preseason so far, it's going to be hard to not send a guy at him. And then once they send a guy, he has a passing ability good enough to dump it down or throw it up. It's all on Wiseman at that point to be able to catch either of those passes. I mean, because if he catches it, it's going to be a dunk. You know what I'm saying? But his issue is that he doesn't always catch them.
I know.
And that's where the new developmental coaches come in, and hopefully they can get him up to speed. You know, they see him doing the catching drills and all that type of stuff since he can't jump right now. But so yeah, his fingers crossed. You know what I mean? Because if he can do those things, it just adds another dimension to the team.
Right.
And as many layers you can add to one team, the better obviously that team is going to be.
I really hope he can take a jump.
Yeah, I mean,
even if it's not this year, I feel bad. I mean, I think I saw that he came off of social media, right? And I'm like, it had to be like the way Warriors fans were talking about him because we were the worst ones.
He was getting killed.
Yeah, I mean, I felt so bad for the kid. He's so young. So I do hope. So when you look at the other teams in the West, the Jazz added Rudy Gay, right? Was that their only like significant change in the offseason?
And Eric Pascal.
They'll probably play. Yeah, they'll play Eric Pascal. I think they'll play him.
Oh,
Yeah, but okay. So like, I mean, do we think much has changed? I mean, they added Rudy Gay, but what new element does he bring to that team?
Who did they lose?
They added Grayson Allen too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So that's more 3-point shooting though, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a handler too. He's just a solid player. He's a pretty good player. I don't like him, but he's a pretty good player.
I know he's a douche. What were you saying, Amber?
No, basically just what you were saying.
Oh, okay. So I mean, how much do we think the Jazz have improved?
Not much.
I think
Not
they're
much.
Worse. Yeah.
They're the
Okay,
same
and then
So-
Denver, did they make any changes?
Denver, they're gonna have Aaron Gordon for a full season.
And they'll have Austin.
That's about it.
Austin's going to be there the whole season.
I'm trying to think, did they add anybody? I don't think they did.
I was watching Denver.
And they
in the
lost, what's his
preseason.
name? The guy who went to Brooklyn, right?
Paul Millsap.
Yeah, Millsap. So,
But they're just going to replace him with Jermichael Green. I mean, Jermichael Green is pretty much Paul Millsap.
right. So, I mean, so Denver is going to be, I mean, they'll be waiting for Jamal to come back, but they're relatively the same team. Dallas is the other team who everyone keeps like, it's always about Luka, really. All the hype is about Luka, but has Dallas, they didn't do
Dallas is
anything.
weak. Dallas is weak.
I don't understand. I don't understand all the hype about them. I get the Luka, but it's like, what have the Mavs really done to make their team better this offseason? Nothing, right? I mean, they're trying to get why can't I remember anyone's name today? The one who got traded from the Heat, the point guard who's on Toronto right now.
Goran Dragic.
Yes, Dragic. So I know Dallas is trying to get him. I don't know if they will. If he goes to the Mavs, do you think that makes them like
those Euro players?
Yeah, I think him and a Luka are buddies. But would that make them like any more serious of a threat? I mean, I know that's the thing. Like everyone's like they need another ball handler.
I mean, it would help to have an extra ball handler, but I don't know. I think Dragic is done personally, but I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm looking at the West from like top to bottom. Is Houston gonna get back the Rockets? Are they gonna get back into like even a play-in spot this year? Do they have enough
be the
now?
worst team in the West. They're gonna be the worst team in the West.
They're gonna be worse than OKC?
Yes.
Okay. So who's gonna be battling for the 9 and 10? Are the Grizz gonna be in? Or are they gonna, because they made some changes. So they lost some guys. They did a lot over there. So are they gonna make it? And you have the Kings and the Wolves. The Wolves are probably out, but the Kings were like right there too. And you have the Pels.
The Wolves are sneaky.
The Wolves are sneaky?
Yeah.
The Wolves are sneaky good. I mean, Cat's better than everybody on Memphis, for sure. Like, by far, he's better than everybody on Memphis. And then Anthony Edwards is really good. You know, they're starting to defend. It looks like they're going to defend this year based on the preseason game. So
you have them getting in or being play-in?
They're in the mix with Grizzlies. They're in the mix with Memphis. And
what about NOLA, the Pelicans?
In that same range, but I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be that good.
We think the Kings will be in that range with them this year.
Probably, but then they always, they always have.
Last year it was injuries for them, right? Because they were like right there, but then they had like a string of injuries at the end of the season.
The Kings are they're like the Raiders of basketball. Like they can't do it.
So tell me who's going to be 1 through 8, or like who do you see making it into the playoffs in the West?
It'll probably be the same teams as last year, except you switch Memphis and Golden State. Obviously, we won't. I don't think we'll be 8th, but I just think those will be the teams.
Those will be the same teams. Okay.
Yeah, both LA teams: Denver, Utah, Phoenix.
So Clips still make it without Kawhi.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you
They're
think
going to be a playing team though?
The Clippers?
Yeah, you think so?
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll end up being better than Dallas.
I don't think so.
You don't think Paul George is like due for like a special season?
Paul George can never stay healthy. So
I don't think
if have some type of 6-week injury again or something. They could even fall out of the playoffs. But I think that would definitely put him, even if it's just like a couple of 2-week, two-week injuries, that could really.
So for you think it's an injury thing, not an ability thing with Paul George?
A little of both. I think he might have inconsistent games. I could see them being kind of like up and down, and then I think if he happens to stay healthy, I think they could probably be like 5-6 seed. But has he ever like stayed healthy a whole season in recent years?
Probably not since the indie days, but okay. I mean, the Clippers, I felt like their team seemed to be good, like even without Kawhi, like just a solid, good team. I mean, that was the case too, though, if you think about it, even the year before, even before they got Kawhi, right? Because I mean, that's who we played one year in the first round. And even though it shouldn't have went to 6, it did. But like that year they played, what was that, back in 2019? They had no like superstars on that team, no one.
Yeah,
and
they're a different team now. It's different.
They are, but they have some good players.
They're solid role players. I think Man is taking a leap too. Like he's, he took a leap in the playoffs, and I think.
Do you think Reggie continues with that shooting? Or is
No.
that like an anomaly?
I think he might be good, but he's not going to be like 50, 40, 90. You know, I think he might shoot well, but I don't think he's going to shoot that well.
I think offense is going to take a slight dip this year.
On the Clippers.
Just yeah, like a lot of teams are playing up tempo, and I think a lot of teams that we saw like in the 117s, they're probably going to dip a little bit because of how the refs are calling it and how defense is being played. If we see like 7 or 8 teams like the 117s like we did last year, I would be shocked if we see that again this year. I think last year had some factors, and I think the Clippers were one of those. They were the recipients of a lot of that high-powered offense, and I think they're probably going to take a slight dip defensively.
If Reggie can maintain that same level of play though that he was playing at in the postseason,
he was
and
shocking
Paul
the hell
George
out of me in the playoffs, man. I mean,
right? If he can maintain that level and Paul
Yeah.
George stays healthy for the season, you don't think they're going to be like right in the middle of the pack?
There's no way he maintains that level of play. He would be like an all-star, like one of the best players in the league. Like, that's not going to happen.
I think they're a playing team. Like I think they're a borderline. I think they're right in that 5, 6, 7 range. I really, really think so. I don't see how you can lose like a player like that unless Terrence Mann steps up in like a big, big way. I think they might have a problem. He might, who knows? Like, the same way that we're talking about Jordan Poole on the Warriors, maybe he takes that kind of leap. Who knows?
I think they're just such a deep team, though. It's like they don't. I mean, obviously Kawhi provides a lot of star power. He's their MVP caliber player, but I think depth is going to win them a lot of games, and their style of players is going to win them a lot of games.
So you said you would have them higher than Dallas.
Yeah, I think they're
Where do
deeper
you
than
have
Dallas.
the Mavs finishing?
I think the Mavs will be like 7th, like the play-in, but like 7th play-in.
And what about where do you see the Blazers this year?
Play-in, 8th.
Okay. All right.
I mean, those 3 teams. I think Clippers, Mavs, and Trailblazers are like that lower tier playoff team. I think then LA, Denver, Utah, Phoenix, Golden State is kind of like that upper tier. I guess if you want to put LA and Utah and Phoenix in that top tier, and then Denver and Golden State in the mid, I'll take that. But yeah.
Now, is there any chance Kawhi comes back this season? Because I've seen like talk that that's possible.
They're not gonna bring him back off an ACL injury. Like, it would make no sense to rush him back. Didn't you just sign a 4-year extension? That would be not smart, especially with his injury history. I think there's no way it happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's medically possible, but with Kawhi, he tends to play the long game with his recoveries. So I don't know. If they're that 6-7 seed, then he's probably not coming back.
Okay. So you think it's going to be based on like the seeding? But I mean, what else would they be, right? Like wouldn't the idea be that like if he comes back, like they can make a run in the postseason? I mean, it's unlikely, but they're not going to be like a 3 or 4 seed, you know?
Right, for sure.
That's not going to happen.
That's why I don't think he's going to play.
Okay. All right. So let's do the East really quickly. So the Nets. Let's start with the Nets because Kyrie's like a big deal. So at least right now, the way it looks is Kyrie's going to be missing all of the home games plus the 2 games versus the Knicks. So that's 41 home games, 43 games. Is it
Plus
2 more games? No,
Lakers.
40. No, he can play. He can play for the Lakers.
They play the Knicks more than 2 times, don't they? Because they're in the conference.
They play 4 times, so it's their 41 games, which includes and then they played the Knicks 2 times.
Oh, 2 times.
In New York.
Yeah, but I was reading because I was wondering about that, and like, no, they said for the New York teams, they have to be home and away. They have to be, but like that doesn't apply when they come out of state. So like Kyrie can play in Golden State, Kyrie can play in LA, but he's not going to be able to play at all at home or.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's for
So
New York employees only.
Yeah. So 43. So what does that mean for the Nets? I mean, I still think that they're a contender, even if they don't have Kyrie, barring injury and anything crazy, but they're just less of a sure thing, right? So do you still think they can, or do you think they will come out the West? Because I mean, I see people like, oh, if Kyrie's out, yeah, the Bucks definitely. And I'm just like, there's Kevin Durant and Harden over there. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I'm confused. So what am I missing?
Last year with Harden being hurt, so I wouldn't, say the Bucks probably gained more confidence last season with, finally getting the job done. But so maybe they won't, do as much dumb shit and play hella scared and stuff. But I think that even just KD and Harden is going to be tough for any team to beat. And I also think that there's a large possibility that like the restrictions for indoors with COVID change. All the COVID, the COVID stuff changes like every couple months. So I think there's a good possibility that Kyrie is able to play like, the second half of the season or something, unless, there's probably the flu peak of the flu season, it will stay in place. That's probably why they put it in now. But
it'll be based on the numbers in whatever area it is, like how it's going.
But by spring, especially when it's going, they'll probably start lessening restrictions, and it would be likely, I think, that at least by playoff time he would be able to play every game.
So I mean, you can imagine though, like they'll probably be like lobbying the mayor and people behind the scenes, right, to get that lifted.
I would think, like, don't you guys have any pull to? I don't know.
I don't know, but at least right now, as of today, Nash was speaking and he's like, we expect Kyrie's going to be missing games. So what do you think that means for them, Eric? I mean, I know that you were you don't like the way anyway that people keep talking about the Nets. You're like, they're forgetting about the Bucks, what Giannis just did. So, I mean, you weren't really on the Nets train like that, but like, what do you think it means for them? And then like where they're going to like, how that'll play out in the East.
I don't like how people just hand them the title. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you have Harden and KD, you have shooting. Yeah, but there's still questions about them defensively, right? And I don't like what people do with the Bucks from the standpoint that this is a team that's been, they've pretty much won like 80% of their games. They went to the East Finals. They won a title. Like, this is a strong contending team. And the way I see people just kind of like toss them to the side because Kevin Durant is on the team and James Harden is on the team, it's kind of disrespectful to me. This is a really, really good team. And they won the title last year. You know what I'm saying? And I know people talk about, if it weren't for the toe. I mean, yeah, KD went like 0-7 in the OT. So, I mean, like, the way people just disrespect this team, it's amazing to me.
So do you think the Bucks are going to come out of the East next year?
Yeah, I think they will. Yeah, like I really think it's Giannis's time. And there is a thing that happens to a player after he wins a title. And I've seen it with all the greats. It's in that second year, like Michael Jordan's best season wasn't 89, 88, 90, 91. It was actually 92. 92 was like peak MJ. And I think we're about to see peak Giannis. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guy's 26 years old, and kind of where we're seeing him now. I think we should expect that leap. Kevin Durant is like 33 now. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming off of the Achilles, and we might never see him play like a really good season. So I think the Bucks are going to be the best team. I really, really think so.
I saw you shaking your head, Justin, when he was just like, there's something that happens to a player. So like, you think I mean, do you think the Bucks are being disrespected too?
Yeah, I do. I was one of those people while they were going through their run that didn't expect them to get over the hump because it seemed like they would have a great game and then they would just kind of flop the next game. But I mean, once you get over that hump, it's just like obviously we've seen it happen with Golden State where they win in 15 and they hear the disrespect and come out and just like destroy the league in 2016. Obviously derailed by injuries, but we've seen it happen with Steph. You get that championship swagger. You know what I'm saying? Like it happens to a lot of players when they win an Olympic gold medal as well, but especially when they win a championship, they just come back a little bit more comfortable. And once you're comfortable in your own abilities and stuff like that, the confidence goes through the roof. And they have their formula and how to win, So I think they'll be a really good team. I don't know if they'll, come out the East. The Nets still have a lot of talent, so you just got to see how it plays out. But yeah, too many people are writing them off. Too many people are just saying the Nets are for sure thing. And I don't think that's the case.
So with Kyrie in and out of the lineup this season, maybe the whole season, maybe not. Where do you see the Nets finishing? Like still a top 3 team in the East, or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Harden came about midway through the season. He was fairly healthy, I think, once he got there. And as long as Harden's going to win you a lot of games just because his style of play, especially in the regular season, he's going to win you a lot of games. Even if KD misses a bunch of games, which he probably will due to, just the situation he's in now. They have enough shooting. They have Harden shooting and lob threats. So their offense is going to be superpower regardless. They're just going to win a lot of games, and then like the whole Ben Simmons thing. So Philly's probably not going to be in that top 3 range unless Embiid has a ridiculous season.
So who do you think is going to be up there? The Heat, the Celtics?
Not the Celtics. I don't think the Celtics are going to be up that high. Probably the Bucks for sure. The Nets
Atlanta.
And Atlanta's going to win a lot of games. Yeah, it'll probably be that four-way race between like Miami, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Atlanta. It'll probably be decided 2 or 3 games either way. I think those would be the top 4 right there.
So how much do you think Kyle Lowry is going to lift the Heat?
I think his value is going to be seen more in the playoffs than necessarily in the regular season. But he just provides them with just more versatility. They have a legit point guard. I mean, a guy that can guard point guards, a guy that can shoot pull-up threes, which is super valuable, at least in a regular season in the NBA. Distributing, just takes pressure off Jimmy, another guy that can set up Bam. So they just got deeper, you know what I'm saying? Even if Oladipo, if he's healthy, that's another layer to their team. They got PJ Tucker away from Milwaukee, which takes away, takes some depth away from Milwaukee.
Would the Heat be the hardest matchup for the Bucks defensively? Maybe not offensively, but would that be their hardest matchup?
Defensively, probably. I think so. Yeah, I think the Heat probably their offensive ceiling isn't as high as Milwaukee or Brooklyn, but they probably have the highest second. They're up there with Milwaukee defensively as far as like their ceiling in the playoffs because they can match up with a lot of teams.
Milwaukee's the best team in the East defensively.
I think so.
And then say second, you'd give it to the Heat.
Yeah, I think you can go either way, but right now you got to give it to Milwaukee just because Jrue Holiday and Giannis on the same team is pretty damn good.
Amber, I know you're not like really a fan of Trae Young. So what do you see the Hawks doing next season in the East?
I mean, I think they'll be good. I think they'll probably be similar to last season. I think they'll win a decent amount of regular season games and, first, second round exit. Any type of real threat.
But they got to what, the Eastern Conference Finals. So you don't think they'll get back there again this year?
No.
Okay.
No, because the top 4 teams should, or the other team they're playing The second round should be better than what the Sixers were last season. So they shouldn't be able to, unless they take some type of huge leap. I like Collins. Isn't that his name? Collins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I like him.
What is your issue with Trey, actually?
Oh, he just annoys me. It's the hair and the little elf look. I don't know. He irritates me.
It's a Steph Curry comps that annoys her. I'm telling you, I know it.
Oh,
Steph
yeah.
Curry comps that annoy her.
He never annoyed me, but like I actually kind of was impressed by Trey and what he did in the postseason last year.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of actually grew a little fond of him. He's turned into a little villain in New York, kind of like the new age Reggie Miller. So it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. The Knicks, I'm actually interested in Chicago. They made a lot of changes, right? So what do you think they're going to look like this year?
I like where Chicago is. So in terms of team building, I think you need a certain amount of playmaking, and I think you need a certain amount of shooting. I think adding Lonzo, they added the playmaking that they needed. Like, I was watching him in preseason, and I was just looking at what he was doing from the position, like in terms of finding the cutters and all of that stuff. And he's a high-level passer. Like, I wish the Warriors had a guy like that,
We could have traded Oubre for Lonzo, though, right? Is that what
we
you're thinking about?
Yeah. Like, if there was a trade to be made, it probably would have been that.
That one, right? Yeah,
that one. But I don't think the Warriors wanted to spend any more money than they had to. So I think that's why the trade wasn't made, because they're like, if we trade Oubre, like, they're starting to count dollars at this point, and every dollar that they spend from here on out is like times 4, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
I think that's how they were looking at it. But they just went the cheapest route. They're like, you know what, let's just get some rookies in here and hope one of them pops. So let's see if that actually works. But in terms of the Hawks, I think the Hawks are the kind of team that I could see beating Brooklyn. I think that type of team could beat Brooklyn. I think Milwaukee.
Based on
what? Yeah. Based on what I saw in the playoffs last year, they have a ton of playmakers. They are very switchable, and they have size and they're switchable. I think that's the type of team, and they have playmaking from that point guard position. Trae Young isn't an easy player to guard. Like, he's super annoying to guard. So just based on what I saw in the playoffs and last year when Trae Young advanced to the East Finals, and then all of a sudden it turned into, look at all this help that Trae Young had. You know what I'm saying? Like, Luka doesn't have that type of help, And you saw, like, guys making plays outside of Trae Young, and that really impressed me. Like, you saw Kevin Huerter step up in that Game 7.
Yeah, he was huge.
You just saw, like, different guys just stepping up. Yeah, that Bogdanovich dude, he's a dribble pass shoot dude. So
they have a lot of shooters on that team.
They have guys on the team.
How will the foul change rules affect, the trays and part of the reason why he's hard to guard is because he jumps into you and it's a foul. So if they're not calling that does make him easier to guard.
That's a great point. He is an example of a player like Harden, who they should be using as the poster boy instead of like all these conversations about, will this affect Steph Curry's game? That is a great question. Do you think, I'm of the impression that great players will just figure out how to adapt. And I do think Trae's a great player, but what do you guys think?
If a player is running like a 120 offense, right? Like, anytime he's on the court, their offense is like, 120 points per 100 possessions. I think that rule change for a foul baiting guy, it probably drops him down to like a 117 when he's on the court, right? So the less fouls you draw, like it probably takes a little bit of bite out of your offense. But these are like savvy offensive players. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are maestros. You know what I'm saying? Like scoring, passing. You know what I'm saying? Like getting to spots or whatever. Like these dudes are savvy. They'll figure it out. But I do think it's going to take offense down a little this year. And I like at the end of the day, it just comes to who's the best player on the court, you know? So, but if there were an upset in terms of a team beating the Nets, I think it's a team like that. Just a young, scrappy, hungry team. I could see that happening.
All right. So I'm going to keep that in mind as the season unfolds, and let's see what happens. So we haven't talked. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the Bulls would be more likely to beat the Nets.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like kind of gauge what the Bulls are going to be because we haven't seen them, but I'm excited to watch that team. We haven't talked much about the Celtics, and I know last year they had like a lot of injuries. They dealt with COVID, but Tatum still had like a pretty amazing season. And hopefully they're going to be healthy this year. So, I mean, I know that they lost Kemba Walker, which is probably a good thing ultimately. And I think they're probably, I don't even know if he's going to leave anymore, but they're probably going to go after Bradley Beal next season based on the strength of Tatum's relationship with him. But like for this season, I mean, does Tatum take a big enough leap to like help them like make a deep postseason run? Jaylen Brown looked really good. I mean, those guys are good.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better than people expect. Yeah, I think Tatum could take a really big leap, and even Jaylen.
No one's talking about them, and I that actually surprised me.
They fell off last year, like that they didn't play well. You know, everything that happened last year, I'd forget about them. But I think they, you know, if they take big enough leaps, they could even potentially be a top 4 team.
Because when we matched up with them, I mean, like Tatum held his own with Steph.
Yeah, Tatum's already there. He doesn't need to take a leap.
I mean, but if he takes even more of a leap, that's like, you know, it's like it could be like an MVP candidate or something. Like he has that type of talent.
He's not a top 10 guy. Is he like right outside of the 10, or do you have him in the top 10 or like right there?
If somebody has him in the 10, I think he's outside, but if somebody put him there, I wouldn't like argue to the death, to the teeth about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's like not much he can't do on the court. You know what I mean?
And I can see
then he has size.
That leap to put himself as like top 10. And if he does, he really moves the Celtics up to like one of the top teams in the East.
Scoring the ball, like he's right there. I think the growth in him is the playmaking aspect. I think when you become one of those guys, or like one of those elite guys, I think you have to make your teammates better. If he makes his teammates better, I think he's going to be in the top 10. Somebody's going to have to be out of the top 10. I think playmaking is the next leap that he makes, right? So it has to be the point now where he's such a scoring threat that you have to double him or you have to send like extra help at him. And then he's just like diming up people and making other people better. I think if he gets to that point, that's when you start to get into that conversation. That's how it is with all of those guys in the top 10, every single one of them. Jokic, Embiid, Harden, you know, Steph, Bron, Giannis, like all of those guys make their teammates better. That's kind of what separates them. Like they're so good offensively that, you know, you have to just send people at him.
Does KD make his teammates better? Because people debate.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, I think he does. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to hate on him. It's a genuine question.
If the thing about KD is that the guy is probably one of the most efficient players ever. And I think what we saw over the years is that he made certain sacrifices for the guys that run his team. Like, for instance, like Russell Westbrook needed the ball, right? And he had to play a certain way to have Russ be effective, right? KD went to the Warriors. We saw him take a leap playmaking wise. And in the playoffs, we were watching him last year. And whenever they sent like an extra guy at him, like he was just diming up guys. He was collapsing the defense and all of that. So I get what you're saying. Like, in terms of making plays, is he better than Bron? Absolutely not. Is he better than Steph? Probably not. But he has grown. You know what I'm saying? Like, even in OKC, like kind of going back and watching now, and watching from like a 2021 lens, watching 16 games with a 2021 lens, and just kind of understanding how they were using him. Like I remember this particular play, like he came off of a pin down, and then I think it was like Roberson or somebody like that just floated to the rim and he got a dunk. So he was making plays like that even before we kind of realized, you know what I'm saying? So he's so good off ball, and he was good off ball then. He was making certain sacrifices. So that's why we really don't give him that amount of credit. But he was making plays. We just they didn't have like really good structure around him. We saw really good structure around him here, and he looked unbelievable. Like he made like one of the greatest offensives look better, and he didn't take anything from him. You know what I mean? So I think that's a testament to his skill. So I think he's a high level playmaker. I do think you can put him around. I don't think he's as good as Steph, like off the ball, but I think he has all those skills.
Of course.
At that level, you know.
All right. So go through the East for me really quickly, because we're about to wrap up in terms of what the East looks like. Because I mean, the bottom half of the East is they're pretty weak. But who do you see like being the 8 teams this year? I don't know if like the Pacers make it in. I mean, some people are telling me the Pacers are sneaky good this year, but I honestly don't know enough about what's changed about them.
I like the Bucks, the Hawks, the Nets, the Heat.
That's 4.
The Sixers. I think
the Celtics.
The Celtics. So those are your 6, and I think like a team like Orlando. Orlando is probably going to make like a slight push.
Really?
Yeah, Orlando.
What?
Orlando is traditionally good. They have some guard play now. Like
face.
Their problem usually was like, Orlando.
Do you know who's on Orlando?
I do.
Ain't no way.
They'll probably make a push. All right.
Orlando.
So you're 6. So we got the same 6. So we got the same top 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Miami, Atlanta, Boston. You said who else? Philly.
Yeah.
So what about the Knicks?
I'm probably going to say the Knicks, the Bulls, and the Raptors are going to be fighting for the last 2 spots, or they're going to be in the mix. I think those are the 9 teams that are for sure in the mix now. Not Indy. I think Charlotte's going to be better than Indy.
Okay.
So I think Indy's out of the play-in. Charlotte's probably in that last play-in spot.
But we don't think the Bulls are going to be in that top 6. Well, I shouldn't say
they could be.
Okay.
They could be. They could be.
Who does Jalen Suggs play for? Orlando?
Yeah.
Orlando, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Orlando's very young. I think they're like a in 2 years type of team.
They traded away Vooch, right? He went to Chicago. There's nobody on that team. Is Markelle Fultz? Is he gonna be back?
I think so.
Okay.
They got Cole Anthony. They just got a bunch of very young players, I think.
Isaacs.
Yeah, Jonathan Isaac.
We won't get into him and all of his actual theories, but yeah, they got Isaac. So I mean,
he's a hell of a player though. But if he can stay healthy, I don't know. If he can do that.
I'm not banking on seeing the Magic anywhere near the playoffs. All right, so can we just do some quick predictions? Who do you think will be in the MVP race?
Steph, Giannis. I think it might be them two, to be honest.
Really?
Because I don't think anyone I don't think their record's going to be good enough. I don't think Steph, Giannis, and Jokic.
Jokic? I was just about to say, what about Jokic? Okay.
Yeah, because they'll have the record, and they don't have any other MVP caliber guys taking votes away from them on their team.
Let me throw this.
The media is always who?
I'm going to throw this stat out there. Steph Curry is one of like 4 players who's averaged 25 on over 60% effective field goal. He's one of like 4 guys that's done it twice. He's the only guy that's done it 3 times, and he's the only guy that's done it 4 times, right? He is the most efficient 25-point scorer ever in the history of the league. He's going to be in the MVP because he has better teammates this year. Giannis just won a title. He'll have that MVP boost. And then Jokic, it's pretty much Jokic and everything funnels through him. I watched him the other night.
We know the media is going to want to put him in there.
Good,
yeah, but he's not going to be there.
Braun are going to be in the conversation.
What'd you say?
They're not going to be there.
If the Lakers are the 1 seed, then it's either if AD is playing out of his mind, it will be him, or it will be.
They're not going to be.
They're going to find a way to put one of them in there.
If the Lakers are playing really well and they're healthy, one of them is definitely going to be in the MVP conversation. Probably be Braun, but if AD plays out of his mind or something, which is always a possibility, I can see him being in the MVP conversation.
I mean, I think the points that you're making right here is like the reason why, it'll split, because somebody's going to be wanting to give it to LeBron, somebody's going to want to give it to AD. I think it'll just
Are they going to want to give it to AD though?
Hell no.
I want to give it to him.
Hell no.
I feel like it's always going to be Braun.
No, it's always going to be Braun, because guess what's going to happen? Braun is always going to be like the plus minus on off guy, right? And the minute they start to throw AD into the conversation, then they're going to say, "Oh, Braun has a plus 10 on off, and AD like you don't like when Braun is on the court, he doesn't." They're going to start to do that routine, so it's going to drop AD down. But then you're going to look at AD's box score stats. It's probably going to lead the team in like every major freaking category, right? So that's the push and pull that's going to happen there. And then in Brooklyn, I just don't think KD is going to play that many games. You know what I'm saying? Like,
will there be an argument for Harden? What about
there is going to be an argument for Harden every single year, just based on the style of play.
Is done giving it to Harden though, like until he actually. The media just kind of stops. They were doing that last year. Giannis had, a case just as much as any other player, but he had flamed out in the playoffs. It was kind of like, we're done.
Media fatigue.
We gave you 2. Yeah. We're not voting for you this year. I feel like they stopped voting for Harden. Like they'll give him like the number 4 vote or something, but I don't think he's really like realistic to be the MVP.
I feel like Embiid would have like a narrative story. Like if Ben is not around and he has like monster numbers again, and the Sixers have like a decent enough record, I feel like he has a narrative, definitely like a strong narrative. And
I think Embiid is going to have enough.
You don't think? I mean, they probably won't have a good enough record, but if they somehow do, I think that would put him in the conversation. And then same thing with like if Tatum is playing out his mind again, somehow the Celtics are like up there. And I think people like to always see a new guy in it. Like, I don't know, maybe he somehow works his way into it. But yeah, I mean, I think you got all the guys. Okay, who's going to be the scoring leader? Or who do we think is going to be in that conversation? It seems like Bradley Beal might hunt for that again. I mean, he said MVP, but if he's hunting for MVP, his scoring is probably going to be up there, but I don't know who else.
There's no way he's MVP.
He's not going to be MVP, but he's hunting for it. So
he might hunt for it because he's mad he didn't get it last year, and like someone like KD, Harden, they're always going to be up there because they score so much. Steph will probably be up there, but hopefully he won't have to carry that heavy of a load. Dame, yeah, the same people who were like probably in the race last season.
Okay.
How many shots are you giving Steph Curry?
If he gets 20 shots, he's going to win it.
Yeah, that's my feeling too.
Yeah, I don't think he'll need to take 20 though.
Do you think he's averaging 30 again next season?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
probably.
Between 29 and 31 is realistic. 28 at the lowest.
Put it this way.
50, 40, 90 season incoming because he'll have the space this year.
Yeah, so here's my opinion with Steph. If he's averaging 28, 29 points a game, that means they're going to win 60 games. If he's averaging 28 points, that means other people are stepping up scoring wise. If he's averaging like 30, 31, 31, no, if he's averaging like 31, 32, 33, that means he had to do a lot of heavy lifting. If he's in the 28-point range, he'll probably win MVP. He won't win scoring title, but the team will win around 60 games or something like that. That's what I see happening.
Okay. What about?
Because that means somebody took a leap.
Hopefully. I want everyone to take a leap, and I want definitely guys to remain healthy. I've loved everything I've seen from Otto. I love his new nickname. Otto Corner, right? Whatever it was.
Like
It's good. Yeah, Otto Corner 3, Otto, whatever. I'm fucking it up, but he has a new nickname and I like it. So I got to learn it first so I can say it. I don't know much about the rookies, but not our rookies, but I just in general, I don't pay that much attention to the new guys until they start playing. But Justin, I think you kind of have like a handle on them. So who do you see getting Rookie of the Year?
I'm going to go with Cade. I think it'll be close between him and Jalen Green. They'll have the points. They'll have like the counting stats and stuff like that. I just think Detroit will probably have a slightly better record than Houston does. I just think Houston's super young. So they're probably gonna, and they're leaning into their youth. You know what I mean? They got some good players like Christian Wood. I mean, Eric Gordon's a vet, but I don't see Eric Gordon really playing a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're probably just going to try to develop their young guys, which means they're going to lose a lot of games. Meanwhile, Detroit has like Jeremy, and they got a little bit more pieces, and the East is a little bit weaker at the bottom. So, Cade probably get it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can stop there because we kind of talked about who we thought was going to be coming out the East and the West. So, it's going to be interesting. I think I'm really uncertain on like who's going to make it out and who's going to be in the finals, but I think the season again is another season where it's kind of like up for grabs. I know that most of the media isn't talking about it like that. It's like everything's a sure thing, but I really don't feel like, especially again, we don't know how the Nets are going to play out, but I don't look at any one team now and feel like, wow, there's just like, there's a chance to me with everyone. Like, even if some teams are more talented, I don't look at any one team and feel like it's impossible, like, to beat them. So I think the season is going to be really good. I just hope, guys can stay healthy. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. So we got through a lot. Thank you guys for helping me debut my new show. First episode. I'm so thankful that you guys came on with me. Amber, did you find out what your Twitter handle is? Yeah.
It's AMC Boricua.
There you go. So follow Amber on Twitter. I'm Nat. You can follow me on Twitter at NatFluential, the way it sounds, NatFluential. My takes are a little wild sometimes, so, but you should still follow me, follow all of these guys. They're great. I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for next week. Going forward, like I said, most of the shows are usually going to be about 45 minutes to an hour, but this was a special to debut the show and also to give you a preview of the season. So let's see if what we said today holds true. You can come back and let us know if we were way off, got anything wrong. So subscribe, leave some comments, give me feedback. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.